After that, approximately a minute or so later, I believe I started hearing radio traffic on both Channel 3 and Channel 1. I believe either a reserve officer or a community service officer on Channel 3 requested an ambulance somewhere on the eastern portion of the parade route. I remember it was sort of towards the beginning of the parade. They were asking for an ambulance because someone had been hit.
Then what happened?
I believed that it was something stemming from the domestic or the fight, because during that fight someone had fled on scene and someone had been flagged down who had reported this incident. So I believed that the hit was something to do with the physical altercation that had happened. Moments later, this was all sort of spun out of control very quickly. Radio traffic became more and more difficult as Channel 1 and Channel 3, so as officers on the road and officers and community service officers and reserve officers were working the parade, everyone was starting to get on the radio, and more people started calling for ambulances. And then I could tell as people were calling for them, it was moving westbound on the parade route.
What did you do as a result of hearing that information on the radio?
It was tough to piece all together. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I knew something was happening, but I didn't know exactly what. I have a collar mic, so my microphone was approximately right about here on my chest. I don't have an earpiece. That's just what I use. So between trying to listen to the radio microphone and the parade, it was sort of hard to piece together. But after a few minutes, I realized something was happening, and I began walking away from my post, and I walked past my barricade sort of into the parade route. And as I did that, I was looking more to like northeast. I couldn't see that much of the parade because where West Main Street ends right there, it's got a hard turn to go southbound to Wisconsin. So I could only see approximately, I don't even know, maybe 100 yards or less of the parade route. And at that point, that is when I started hearing more screams. And this time it wasn't just screams on my radio, it was screams like in my vicinity that I could hear. And at that moment, I saw a red blur come past the Wisconsin House westbound and make a very hard braking maneuver to navigate the left-hand turn on West Main Street to go
there, and let's put
southbound.
Let's put Exhibit 1 back up, please.
As you're putting Exhibit 1 back up, I just want to make a record of the hand gesture he made previously when testifying about, I believe it was his radio microphone. He used his right hand, I would say about heart height, to indicate his, I believe he called it a lapel mic or something to do with his radio and where he would hear from. Go ahead.
Objection. I don't think he said lapel. I think he referred to the microphone just being here and not using the earpiece. That's just.
Your objection is noted. The state can seek clarification, but the fact I did my best to describe the action of the officer on the stand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can we actually zoom in on the bottom left corner of this map? You mentioned the Wisconsin House. Can you describe for us where that is?
The Wisconsin House is actually this building right here that is tan. It's the farthest building right before, I guess, on the left portion.
You just put a little dot there.
That should be the Wisconsin House.
Okay, so right as the Main Street curves to the left there?
Correct. It is I believe it's the last building sort of on West Main Street right before the left turn.
So if you were standing in the intersection of Wisconsin and Main, the Wisconsin House is the building that would obstruct your view further east up Main Street?
Correct. There's a parking lot to the left as you look at the screen, and the vehicle's parked there, so I can't even see pretty much anything in front of the Wisconsin House on Main Street from my location.
We can take that back down, please. What happened as the red blur rounded the corner?
I realized what was happening at that point. I I recognized it was a red SUV, and there was extreme vehicle damage to it on the front. The hood was smashed up towards the windshield, the front portion, the front bumpers, the fenders, everything was, it was extreme vehicle damage, like vehicle damage that you would see at a traffic crash between two vehicles. At that point, between all the screaming I heard, everyone calling for ambulances and help, and then realizing people hit, I knew it was now people hit by a vehicle, and I knew that those initial requests were so far eastbound on the parade, and now I'm at towards the end of the parade, or at least the end of the portion of Main Street. I knew that this vehicle had likely, and based on the speed of the vehicle, that the vehicle had ran through the entire parade route and likely severely injured people or killed people. And at that point, I thought it was a terror attack at the parade.
What happened as the SUV continued southbound?
As the vehicle navigated its turn to go southbound, it accelerated towards me. That is when I knew I had to use deadly force to stop the threat. And as the vehicle was approaching me, I remembered making the decision that the easiest shot likely would have been through the windshield. However, I remembered the entire backdrop were just surrounded with kids and people. So I waited for the vehicle to pass me and tried to direct my rounds as most southern as I could, because there were less people in that direction.
Where were you standing in the intersection as the vehicle passed you?
At this point, I had walked northbound slightly, so I was, I believe, just out of the intersection at West in Wisconsin. So I was on, I believe my shots, I was technically on Main Street at the time when I began shooting.
Using cardinal directions, can you describe for us which side of you the SUV passed?
Objection. What is cardinal?
Overruled. The witness may answer.
The vehicle passed to the east of me.
What direction were you facing as it first started to pass you?
I was facing north.
So that would have been on your, the vehicle would have passed you on your right.
Correct.
Okay. How close did you come to the vehicle as it passed you?
It was very close. I believe at the time, I remember stepping to my left. It was so close I felt like I could touch the side of the vehicle.
Could you see into the vehicle?
Yes, I could.
How many people could you see inside of the vehicle?
I saw one person.
Where was that person in the vehicle?
That person was at the driver's seat of the vehicle.
Did you get a good look at the driver?
Yes, I did.
Do you see the driver in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask Mr. Brooks please remove his mask for a moment.
Thank you for doing that, Mr. Brooks. His mask is off.
Can you identify the driver in the courtroom if you see him?
Yes, the driver is seated at the defense wearing a blue tie and blue shirt underneath his suit jacket.
I'd ask the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect the witness has identified the defendant as the driver of the vehicle he saw on November 21.